So, would you say there are any alcohol health myths, and if so, what are they?
Oh my goodness, like where do I start? Well, red wine is heart healthy. The French paradox. Well, they drink red wine, so that must be, they're thinner than Americans. Well, they also walk more. They don't have as many preservatives in their food. I mean, let's look at what really is happening here. And then we now know from the World Health Organization that no amount of alcohol is safe. So saying that, a little bit of wine is good for anxiety. I've had clients who've literally said, I went to my doctor and I said, well, I'm really experiencing anxiety. Maybe I need some anti-anxiety support. And they said, oh, just have a couple glasses of wine at night. It'll be fine. And so the fact that we know that alcohol actually creates stress. So we release increased cortisol and adrenaline when we're drinking to counterbalance. We also have dynorphin to counterbalance the chemical effects of alcohol, which actually creates anxiety. So that's a big one. I think people often think alcohol helps me relax. And the reality is no. And if this is you, listener, and you've ever woken up the next day with not maybe a physical hangover of feeling, the headache, the stomach ache, the dizziness that I used to get, you might have heightened anxiety. And there's actually a term, we call it hangxiety, that it's a form of the hangover because of all of the stress chemicals your body has released. So alcohol does not create relaxation. It actually makes us more anxious, and there's more stress chemicals in our body. So those are kind of two big ones.
So I guess if it makes you more stressed, but you have a belief that alcohol makes you feel less stressed, you're just going to go for another drink, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the interesting thing about alcohol is when we look at the way it works in the body, so we get about 20 minutes. So alcohol is both a depressant and a stimulant. So we get about 20 minutes of that initial stimulation. And this is where people feel kind of euphoric and maybe a little loose, and they start to feel that buzz that people will tell me, well, I don't want to stop drinking because I like the buzz. But when we look at it from a scientific and medical, background, or not background, but lens, we'll see that at the end of those 20 minutes, our blood sugar starts to drop, our blood alcohol level starts to drop, and now we're in this place of the chemicals that are counterbalancing that start to appear. And what we see is that's when people will usually have that second drink because they're like, oh, I don't feel as good. But they never get to that high. So we're always sort of chasing that high, So the second drink brings us here. The third drink brings us here. And what we see is that the counterbalance chemicals like dynorphin, cortisol, and adrenaline last for hours compared to that 20-minute high. So we're really trading like 20 minutes of sort of that euphoria or buzz for about 3 hours of those depressant chemicals. So when we look at the sheer science of it, and then we measure, as you said, you have your clients do, how do I feel? We're going to see the connection. It's pretty incredible. It's there.
Yeah. And if someone's drinking in the evening and they're raising cortisol, it's going to affect their sleep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
One of the things, another health myth, sorry to interrupt, Lee, is the idea that alcohol helps me sleep. And, what we have to remember is that alcohol was actually used as an anesthetic into the 1970s until they decided it was too dangerous. So they stopped doing that. But alcohol as an anesthetic is not going to create natural sleep. People think they're falling asleep with alcohol, but they're not actually in that deep and REM sleep that we need for brain health, for short-term memories, for burning fat, all of that. Instead, we're in this unconscious state. So, and then, of course, we're not only going to have disrupted sleep, but we'll often have that 3 o'clock wake up filled with that anxiety, flooded with, what did I do last night? Oh, I didn't want to drink again. Oh my gosh, what did I say? Who did I text?
Yeah, and again, in my experience, probably the number one thing that wakes people at night is low blood sugar, right?
Yep.
So again, if you're drinking alcohol, unless you're eating a very, fatty, very high protein food with it, you're probably going to have blood sugar issues during the night, which is probably going to wake you up. And like most people, you think, oh, I woke up because I need to pee.
Yeah.
When in fact, if your blood sugar was level, you would have slept through right the way through the night. But when you wake up, it just so happens you've got a full bladder. And so you think, oh, I need to use the toilet. And you think that's the reason you woke up, but actually it was the low blood sugar that woke you up.
Yeah, and alcohol is definitely going to affect that overnight.
Yeah.
In addition to just not having that restful sleep, we need to particularly detoxify our brain. I mean, I think that is one of the irrefutable things that we can tell people, that it's like, do you want to have a healthy brain? Then you need to have, that restorative sleep to have that glymphatic, that drainage system kick in.
Mm. Yeah, the other thing, just going back to the original question, all these benefits from red wine, let's say, well, you get the same benefits from red grapes.
Yeah.
You don't have to drink red wine to get the same benefit, right?
Yeah.
Just
You'll
eat
get
red
all the
grapes.
benefits with none of the downside, right? And yet you don't see people saying, oh gosh, I'm going to have my glass of red grape juice with dinner. I've got to keep my heart healthy. No. And so we have such, big alcohol is a powerful marketing arm. And so there's a lot of accepted benefits of alcohol that just aren't true, that are just part of marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, in the UK, alcohol is illegal and it has, no health benefits, but it causes major problems here in the UK. As a country, we've definitely got an alcohol problem. But yet, the most medicinal plant on the planet, cannabis, is illegal, right? And I mean, it still is in some states in the US.
Yes.
And it just kind of shows you, where the power is really.
Yeah. The marketing of alcohol is fascinating, and we've seen in recent years, a huge mommy wine culture push to get more women drinking, and now they've achieved that. More women are drinking.